Hey guys, it's Nicolette, and I would love to welcome you to another live stream, another Startup Talkshop. Today we're speaking to three phenomenal entrepreneurs from Mozambique. So this is definitely going to be very, very fascinating. As you know, each and every single weekday in the month of November, we are talking to entrepreneurs from all over the African continent. Want to hear the stories, want to hear what's happening there. It's not always just about being in our own little countries and not knowing what else is happening on the continent. So this is going to be very, very, very interesting to say the least. For those of you who are not familiar with what the Talk Shop is about, it's where we speak to entrepreneurs about their ideas, how they're developing their businesses, and also how they are persevering with running a business. I'm Nicolette. I'm going to be your host. I am the founder of Spark Ideas Group, creative captain, a Sith lady, unicorn, all of the above. And Spark Ideas Group is a company that is involved in developing entrepreneurs, so helping them work on their ideas, work on their business models, getting them training, providing them with mentorship as well. So while you're listening, do not forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to follow Spark Ideas Group as well. And if you join our mailing list, the subscription link is in the caption of this video. You'll be updated on the coming events for the rest of the month. Before we continue, we'd like to thank all the people that are partnering and supporting us. And we're going to start off with the Stanbic Bank that's supporting us through their incubator Accelerate. Thank you very much for being an amazing partner for developing SMMEs in the country. We also want to thank the Botswana Innovation Hub. We are streaming from their awesome location right here in Gaborone, the local enterprise authority. We want to thank them for making this content also available to entrepreneurs all over the country and the continent as well. The Standard Chartered Foundation, which is running the Future Makers program in association with Young Africa Botswana. We are absolutely grateful for the support you're giving us. VYB Digital for helping us go digital, and the Creative Business Cup. So as I had mentioned, today we're going to be speaking to entrepreneurs from Mozambique. The capital, for those of you who don't know, is Maputo. There are 30 million people there. Always fascinating because in Botswana, we're only like 2.2 million, very few people here. Languages spoken include Portuguese, Sena, Swahili, Makua as well. The currency is the metical. The last time I was there, people calling it colloquially Meticash, which is very fascinating. And the economy is based off of gas, oil, tourism, and agriculture. So the three entrepreneurs that we're going to be having with us are Velsoma, Joaquim, and Claire. So I'm going to bring them onto the stage and allow them to introduce themselves, starting off with Velsoma. Velsoma, it's awesome to have you here. Please do tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nicolette. Thanks for having me here and giving this opportunity to share my story and what we are doing here at Velmais. So I am Velsoma Cumbana, or simply Vel, if you like to shorten it. I am a young entrepreneur that has been providing virtual assistant services for entrepreneurs and also C-level executives since 2017. So that's basically who I am and what I do.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. I can't wait to get more into what you're doing because it's very fascinating. And just to continue, we're now going to have Joaquim joining us. Joaquim, tell us, who are you and what are you doing?
Good afternoon, Nicolette. It's a pleasure to be here to speak and share my experience regarding the entrepreneurship. So my name is Joaquim Simango. I am the founder of Covenant SGPS Limited. Covenant is an investment and consulting company. We provide international advisor to companies that want to start their business in Mozambique and develop their business in Mozambique. We also provide business advisory for local entrepreneurs regarding different areas of business. So this is who I am. I'm also a professional lawyer. So it's all.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I have been having a very good time this month having lawyers on board because y'all like to fight. That's what I say. So I was like people that like to fight so that when I get into fights, they can back me up. So we're going to get into that. But thank you very much for introducing yourself. And then next we have the awesome Claire. Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Nicolette. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. In a couple of words, I'm an engineer by training, an engineer in the transport sector. I've been working in West Africa, Francophone Africa, and in the Middle East for 10 years before I went to the States to do a master's in public administration, and then I arrived in Mozambique. So as you can guess, Mozambique was not my origin country, but it's definitely my home country today. This is where I live and where I have my family, and where I founded Appload. So Appload is a digital marketplace for logistics that aim to connect shippers and carriers throughout Mozambique, but also between Mozambique and the neighboring countries. We all know that logistics is a real impediment to do business within our country. For whether you have a big or small business, we all need to ship stuff from somewhere to somewhere else, and it's a real impediment. It's difficult to ship things from one place to the other in the territory or with a neighboring country. So this is what we are tackling at Appload with a fabulous team here that is just right next door while we're having this talk. Thank you very much, and looking forward to this talk.
Awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. That was absolutely fantastic. Logistics is an issue. I think it's like an issue everywhere. It's like always trying to figure out, okay, how do I get this from this place to that place? I feel like when it comes to the rest of the world, everyone else has been trading, running business in a more formalized structure for centuries. We're just starting to kind of wanting to catch up with that. But then it's kind of like, okay, do we have these very consistent channels of transporting goods? Do we actually have the infrastructure here? So it's a challenge, but I love everything that you have just mentioned. So I'm going to go into everybody's business here and talk about, why did you start your business? Why in that particular market, and why you thought you'd be the right person to start that. I'm going to start off with Velsoma. So you're providing virtual assistant services based out of Mozambique, which I find to be very fascinating, because I think traditionally on the global stage, most people know that, if you're going to get a virtual assistant, you're going to get a virtual assistant somewhere in the Philippines. I think that's where I've heard a lot of people talking about that. And it's interesting that you're providing that service right here. And especially because I think typically when it comes to us as Africans, a lot of people are used to more traditional forms of business. That means if you have someone working for you, they must sit next to you. You should be able to see what they're doing. You should be able to see that they're actually next to you. So the idea that, you're starting a business where you are inviting people to pay someone to work for them over the internet that they can't see is just so interesting. How did you get into this?
I identified a huge problem among our entrepreneurs is that we often don't have the capacity to hire workers, like conventional workers here. We don't have a much strong economy, so we need to cut costs. So I saw that people were hiring and paying non-fair wages to their workers to do things that could have been done by someone else with the same quality or even higher quality, because we would have all the resources by ourselves, and all you had to do is just to handle all this boring and administrative tasks. So I was just on the internet, and I saw that this was something that was going on outside Mozambique. It's a business that has been going on since 1950, so it's not something new. It's just that people had these trust issues, like, am I going to be trusting someone that is across the continent, or am I going to be trusting someone that is not going to be here, that I won't be able to see? And then I had this solution to provide this kind of services, also because many small and medium businesses were not thriving as they should, because they didn't have the knowledge or the access to certain resources. They needed someone to grow. Is everyone see me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So someone that will partner with them, someone that will be there for them and do this boring and time consuming task as administrative tasks or marketing related tasks, so you could focus on growing your business, so you could focus on your clients, so you can focus on doing your thing, and I'll just do those things that are consuming your time and not bringing any revenue. So that's why I chose to do this, and that's why I am doing this until now. For years has been going on.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And I love it because I hate admin work. I hate it. I hate it. Whenever I'm doing it, I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, but it seems like I have to. I'd rather be doing creative things. And sometimes it's like, I feel like I'm wasting my time on this. And like you said, these are activities that are not necessarily generating revenue. They're just the things which you need to keep everything moving. But to be honest, it's not moving money in.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing why it is that you got into this business. Now, I'm just going to come to Claire next. I'm going to go through the ladies and then round back to Joaquim. So, Claire, how did you end up in the logistics business? Because I mean, you said that you ended up in the U.S. Studying along the lines of like managing public affairs essentially, and now it's like you're doing logistics and an app in Mozambique. It's like, how on earth did that happen?
Yeah, so well, I guess for like many entrepreneurs, my story is very linked to my startup story, right? It's kind of really intertwined. So I'm an engineer, by training in transport sector. So I had been working on railway infrastructure, road infrastructure in West Africa and other regions on the continent. And then, because of the impact that this large infrastructure had on the economies that I was working in, I went to do a master's in public administration because I was lacking, the likes of economic impact and really, regulations, all sort of things, public-private partnerships, etc. And then when the time went to work for international institutions, so still in the public sector, a fellow from an university in the States offered to me to come to Mozambique to do some research in logistics. At that time, Mozambique was still the next star of Africa in this rationale of the 2010s because of the gas discovery. And everyone here was talking about the gas. And he had told me, the real potential of Mozambique is logistics. Please go and do some research for me. I want to write a book about it. So I traveled all around the country and I thought, this is really not a book that is needed. It's an app that, where we share much more information. We avoid to have so many trucks that are empty. What people were telling me is that whenever they were securing a trip from the north to the south of Mozambique, which is 3,000 kilometers long, they were, making up to 200 calls to know whether they could find some cargo on the way back. So this is a real big issue, not only in Mozambique, all across Africa, because the economy is so imbalanced, right? We have much more inputs than we do exports. There is really the north that is feeding the south in terms of imports that is feeding the north, and the north in agricultural production that is feeding the south. So it's very, very unbalanced in terms of logistics, and then it becomes very expensive. Also, the roads, of course, make it very expensive, and also the tons of intermediaries along the chain, right? So these were, to the point that I found out in the study that it was more costly to ship a container from China to Mozambique than to ship it. It was less costly, to ship it from China to Mozambique than from the north to the south of Mozambique. So it really shows you that, we really need to change something here. And then, I just wrote that in the back of my mind. I created a consultancy practice here to create a network to learn Portuguese. I didn't speak Portuguese when I arrived here. And then I met my first co-founder, Catherine, and she told me, Claire, let's do this together. This is a real startup. And then Federico, who I had met before and who became my husband in the meantime, joined the story last year because he also strongly believed in the startup from the get-go. But that was really, I saw a problem. I saw that no one wanted to tackle it. Actually, it's a cool story. At that time, I called Uber. I told them, do you want to come here and tackle the cargo issue? I don't have, anything to, I'm not an entrepreneur. And say, no, do this, and then we speak. But I usually say basically that I came, I became an entrepreneur by accident. I saw a problem. I saw nobody wanted to solve it as I thought it should be solved. and with little money, and so that was it. So the
Oh,
wide
I
road.
love it. I absolutely love it. And, because logistics is I think people don't really think about logistics and how it affects their daily lives, to be
Mm,
honest.
yeah.
And I kind of think about how, when everything was locked down and all the borders were locked out. I mean, in Botswana, we get a lot of our food imported here because our main, products that we do here are basically mining based
Mm,
and beef. So that a lot of the other goods that we have as a country that we consume come from South Africa. So now suddenly
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, borders are closed. And now it's like, okay, now we close the borders, but how is the food going to come in? And
yeah,
how do we make sure, because obviously we don't get as much travel as, let's say, a place like South Africa. So in terms of keeping COVID out as much as possible, it was like, okay, maybe, how do we make sure that whoever's coming into the country is not, let's say going off path and that was early days when it was like, how do we even test for this thing? What's happening? So it was kind of a thing of, you come with your truck and then you see these trucks being escorted by the police. So that it's like, you go to the location, you drop it off, we take you to where you're staying, you drop it off, you stay, you rest, whatever, and then we escort you out, and then that kind of caused, a bit of slowdown in terms of goods and products and services. So I think people don't really think about logistics much. I know someone who was importing animal feed and exactly what you're talking about, that
yeah,
animal feed is coming in from Zambia. It's coming here to Botswana, but it's like, what are you putting on the way back? Is it that, you're fueling the truck again to go back to Zambia and there's nothing on it? That doesn't make sense. So I love the fact that you decided to tackle that. I absolutely think it's wild that it was just more expensive to just move goods through one country than to actually ship stuff from China. That was an amazing opportunity, and I'm glad that you jumped on that. That's really inspirational. Now I'm going to move to you, Joaquim. You are a lawyer running a company that brings investments into Mozambique. Tell us how did you get into this? Because it's always interesting. I always see that my friends who start off like as lawyers or who study law just jump into so many different things, and I'm like, wait, is nobody studying law and just staying a lawyer? Like, how did you end up in the company that you're in right now?
Okay, it's a good story. When I was a teenager, I always dreamed to have multiple companies. But as I was growing, I was studying how to manage and how to organize different companies in the same place. So I discovered something about holding companies. So after I discovered about holding company, I started looking more about holding, what is and how I need to do. And because I was a lawyer, I, I had the opportunity to advise some holding companies and some consulting companies and international investors. And I saw that for them, it's a really a big problem. They don't have someone who they can trust during the process to invest in a country because of corruption and different things. So for me, this is an opportunity because I can create the trust with the international investor and I can be the bridge for them to come to Mozambique. So after that, I had also an opportunity to work in a subsidiary company of a group company, an international group company. So I was growing and I acquired the information and the knowledge. So I started my own business.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. I love the fact that you had this dream as a teenager. Congratulations, first of all, for sticking with your passion from being a teenager, because I think most of us, when we were teens, we wanted so many different things, and you actually followed through. So that's absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that you spoke about the fact that when it comes to bringing in foreign investment, a lot of people, particularly in the West, are very reluctant to put money into African businesses because they're like, we don't know what's going to happen with our money. We don't know if things are going to be stable. We don't have anyone to manage that. So I love the fact that you leveraged on this opportunity, especially being a lawyer, because obviously we would think that, obviously you being a lawyer would mean that the particular rules, regulations that you would stick to versus other people who might be, given money or asked to watch over a particular investment or something of that sort. So that's absolutely fascinating. And I'm so thrilled to hear that you're doing this in your own country, because I think one of the things that often happens is that, when we look at business on the continent, it's always almost like us as African entrepreneurs wanting to go somewhere else, wanting to take our businesses out, and you're actually trying to bring the money in, and I find that to be absolutely amazing. So the next thing I want to talk on is, when everyone starts off, a business, we all have these dreams, these ideas of what it's going to look like, and it's never that. It's never ever that. I'm going to start off with the accidental entrepreneur, Claire. When you went into this, what are some of the unexpected things that happened that you're like, oh my God, I did not expect this to happen? And what are some of the more obvious things that, have also happened in the process of running your business? Claire.
I was on mute, sorry. Honestly, I don't know where to start. I would just maybe introduce the topic saying that if you were to know what is down the road, you would never sign up as an entrepreneur, at least as an accidental one like myself, because, you never know what's going to happen. And the challenges that I've been facing for the past 2 or 3 years have been, unbelievable. At least I thought I could write a book actually about that for so many reasons. I wouldn't even mention COVID because that, everyone was impacted by that. But we actually launched in COVID last year. So it was in September. I was supposed to launch in March, and then COVID happened. So we thought, okay, what do we do? You cannot launch in COVID, right? By Amazon really grew immensely, and all the digital businesses grew immensely during COVID. Launching a digital business in a traditional market like Mozambique is very different story. And you need to, you need to build a brand, you need to build trust, and you need to, have people believe in innovation while they're trying to survive. So they really don't want, to risk anything. They really don't want to go there. And people and businesses were shutting down last year, really, and this year, not sure it's much better. So, COVID apart, no, what can I say? On the personal side, when I was also starting to develop the business before launching it, I got pregnant. So now it's not one startup, but two together. That I didn't expect that one. So this is on the female side of being entrepreneur. No, but actually there is a lot to encompass, and we can have a separate conversation about that at some point, but about what it is to be a female entrepreneur. I guess here, as well as in any other in any other place, there is a very strong bias when it comes to women, I think, in business and as entrepreneurs. I just read the stats recently that 1% of the startups that receive funds on the continent are women-led. So, just so that we get this stat, out of the bush. And and what I really didn't expect is the lack of funding, absolute lack of funding here in Mozambique. There is no one who said, okay, I believe in your business, let's do this. We pulled out everything we could, with Federico, he was born here. So, and, no one was believing in this because there hasn't been, a large startup so far that has attracted funds. And that is tough because you really are putting yourself out there doing everything, but then you also need to pay the bills, right? And that is a bit scary. But then, all of a sudden, they're kind of downs and ups all of a sudden. So unexpected situation can also be fantastic. There have been people out of the blue who have trusted us that I would have never expected. People say, okay, I want to put my stamp on that and see where you go, guys. So what I would say is that the startup life is about being ready for anything to happen and being confident that you will find the resources and the people to overcome that. But you need to be problem solved. Have a problem solving mind. There is nothing that I could say. And but yeah, this is my 5 cents on that. I don't know whether Velsoma have the.
I think that's amazing that you're saying that. You touched on a few points. Obviously, the lack of funding. I think this is the story of Africa. It's like we don't have money. Anyone want to give us money? Want to build businesses? And people are like, no, we don't know that we want to give money to like Africans for that. Even within ourselves, the money for it. Everyone, I feel, pays a lot of lip service to entrepreneurship, and they're like, we want to support we want entrepreneurship, we love it, But when you're like, okay, give me the money, they're like, no, we don't want to support you like that. We want to support you, but not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You also mentioned, being a woman entrepreneur. Interestingly enough, this is not the first time I've heard this. I think one of the entrepreneurs from Lesotho, Dipuo, she spoke about the fact that, her startup is in agriculture. And, when she would go to these meetings, she would be, wearing her heels, wearing her makeup and stuff. And, she would get, not a positive reaction because they were like, wait, what's this woman doing here talking to us about farming and agriculture? And, so a lot of women have actually been sharing with me that, being a woman in business on the African continent in our various countries is very challenging. And I think part of that is, I think people are just not used to women controlling or having a say when it comes to big financial decisions.
Yeah.
And also, yeah.
But if I may, Nicolette, I don't think this is, really specific to here or the continent. I really believe that this is really something, there is a bias against that. And because there's not that many of us, we need to be more of us so that people believe that this is a true story. Myself, to relate to the story in agriculture, I have the double thing of, women in business, but also women in logistics. Just, just, people just don't understand, do not manage to compute that this is this is possible. So yeah, we never really know which bias we will face because investing in a startup is investing in a person for a very long time. It's still the person that you invest. It's not
definitely
nothing more than that.
And also, I feel like even when it comes to one of the issues that I've had, and I've had interesting conversations around this. I remember I once said to, someone that I know who's in enterprise development, I said, so I went to this particular organization. I was looking for funding. And then the next thing, the person that I'm looking for the funding from is hitting on me, and I'm kind of getting this feeling that if I reciprocate, then I'm going to get what I want. And so the person I was talking to was a guy. So he was like, oh my gosh, I wish I was a woman. If I was a woman, like I would have so much money. And then it's like, yeah, you're saying that. But then when you're a woman, you don't want to get opportunities and funding and all that because you're a woman and because you have access to somebody's somebody hitting on you, So it's very frustrating because it almost seems as if no matter how great your ideas are, no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how much value you're bringing, when you walk in a lot of the situations, the first thing that people take note of and focus on is your sexuality, your body, and how they can get access to that. And that's also one of the most frustrating things I have been finding. But thank you for pointing out that, it's been challenging. And also the fact that you have 2 children. You've got a human child and then you've got a business. And I'm always like, having a business is like having a child. I thought I had less responsibility because I don't have kids. And then the other day I sat down and I was like, this business is just as expensive, if not more expensive than having a child, because it's all I think about. I'm always focusing on it. But thank you for pointing that out. I'm now going to move to Joaquim. Joaquim, when you jumped in to create your holding company, big things, what did you expect, and how did those expectations end up working out for you as an entrepreneur?
Okay, first of all was to manage a company or a startup. It's very difficult compared to what we see on Instagrams, people posting on cars, on traveling. But manage a company is really difficult because you need to design policies, you need to organize the structure, the board, and it's really difficult and take you a lot of time. So manage the company, it was the first thing that was unexpected to me, and also is the political situation of the country, because if you want to bring an investment or an investor, they will ask how the country is, what how the economy is. So these are really unexpected situation for me.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think maybe I don't notice it as much because I feel like on some level everything on the continent is somewhat political. So, but then hearing from you that you'd want to bring people in, and then they're like, "Oh, how's the stability in terms of politics?" It's fascinating because I almost feel as if as Africans we've gotten used to the fact that we live in a highly politicized society, and that's still playing a role, will continue to play a role in this. I think we're just used to it. I'm going to give an example in the fact that I live in Botswana, but I am originally from Zimbabwe. So if you can imagine, the political situation in Zimbabwe is like just you just never know what you're going to get. You never know what's going to happen. And now that high tension, political tension has just become normal to me. So I've never even considered that sometimes people from outside would look at that and go, I don't know that I want to put money there. What if the government changes, or what if something else changes? So that's an excellent point that you made. And also you're right. Managing a company is not luxurious at all. No, it is not. That's why I stay off Instagram, because I'm like, if I stay on Instagram and I watch these people saying, "Oh yeah, the startup life," and they're standing next to a Porsche, I'm gonna want to throttle them, because it's not really what's happening on the street. So thank you very much for sharing that. Moving on to you, Velsoma. Velsoma, you want people to work virtually, to trust. You want us to trust our money, the employees we can't be in touch. How has that been going?
Well, I would say that succeed was my unexpected situation. So I was working as a journalist to a company while having this business on the side. So I interviewed someone, and while exchanging emails with that person, he saw on my email signature that I was a virtual assistant. So he was like, "Okay, yeah, we did the interview. So tell me more about this." And I remember being very afraid of telling that person what I would do, how I would help him, and what was my price. So I was like very afraid that that would be too much for him or something. And I was just like, okay, this is what I do, this is how I can help you, and this is the price. And he told me that that sound pretty feasible. It's like, oh my God, you don't know how much you're helping me. So that was how I got my first client. He was not a Mozambican national. So he was born and raised in Boise, Idaho, but he had business here. So he would spend a lot of time here in Mozambique, between Mozambique, UK, and USA. So that's why he needed my help with organizing his schedule, keeping in touch with people using his email, just making sure everything would run smoothly, that he wouldn't miss any flights and all of that. So that was my unexpected situation, that would uh, succeed. I was very afraid of it. The idea was nice. I knew the potential in that, but I was like, people won't trust me with that. I mean, I am a Mozambican. Mozambique is just this country farthest south in Africa. And how am I going to find people? My own people won't support me. They'll be like, okay, I need a secretary, but here, I need someone here to answer the call. So what are you going to do? Are you going to manage social media? And I remember that in 2017, social media wasn't what it is today. It was like it was a thing, but not exactly a thing as it is today. So marketing agencies weren't a big thing. When people thought about marketing, they thought about some big companies we have here that they would do traditional marketing in television and stuff. And people were like, Facebook, Instagram, you're going to be writing copies for us. That doesn't matter. You're going to be doing design for us. It doesn't matter. So I don't need that, you know. So the unexpected was that I actually succeeded, and we had a wonderful business relationship, and that was awesome.
I love it. I love it. I love that you shared something positive. That was very unexpected for you, and I find it particularly telling that when someone gave you an opportunity, they're like, so tell me, you were just like mortified. I was like, well, I don't know, should I say something? And he's gonna say it's expensive, and they're like, okay, I can do
Hmm.
that. And I think that's something that often happens, as entrepreneurs, we start something, and I think each person, unless you were just born with everything being handed to you, you have a certain level of doubt that what you're going to do is going to work, or is somebody really going to give you money for it. So when it does happen, it's kind of like, oh, I'm shocked. Wow, thank you for trusting me with that. Especially when you are, based off of the African continent and you manage to get clients abroad, or in the West. I've always found that to be very fascinating. Whenever I get a client from abroad, it's like, oh, wait, you actually trust me? Like, and then
Yeah.
usually they're like, I even forgot that you were in Botswana, because you're just doing the things. So thank you very much for touching on that. So the next thing I want to move on, because we've kind of spoken about, a few of the challenges that we've had. Claire, you've also mentioned, about how difficult it is that, if you could say, if somebody had told you what to expect, you'd have been like, I'm not doing that. I'm not crazy. But it's here we are. We find ourselves as entrepreneurs already in the fire, and for whatever reason, we're very reluctant to jump out of the fire. So I want to talk about, what some of the darkest parts of being an entrepreneur have been. And the reason why I have this segment, and I always ask this, is because, like Joaquim said, if you get on Instagram or other places, you see, it seems like entrepreneurs are living their best lives. It's just like, it's luxurious, it's fabulous. They look well rested. They don't have bags under their eyes. Everything is perfect. And, the reality on the ground is something else. And I think that, we often feel under pressure, to make everything look polished and fabulous and fantastic when honestly it isn't. And I feel like there's value in discussing the dark parts so that other people who are coming up behind us will know the truth. So what have been some of the darkest moments for you as an entrepreneur, Claire, when you're just like, this, if I knew this, I wouldn't have done this. I probably need to get out of this. I would love to hear that, Claire.
Yeah, it's I actually when we've discussed before this talk, I noticed that stats that you're showing now, and it really stuck with me because I really feel this is a reality. I really feel this is a reality of many entrepreneurs, and there's no problem with that. What the stats doesn't say is that it's there's the opposite is true. I feel overexcited, or also once or twice a week because something, all of a sudden a deal happened, or someone, we had a great talk with someone like today. This is energizing, and so this is what it is about. This is what I mean. The problem comes when the dark moment lasts. That is of course problematic, and when you don't see how to overcome that, how to pivot around it. So again, I have felt many moments, but I would really say that to me this has been, so this year we've been fundraising, And we are now part of a program that will, put us on stage at par with other startups to compete at the continental level for funding. And I think this is important that Mozambique is represented in these competitions. That competition is really a showcase, and but still, something that was difficult is when you really think that an investment will arrive and it doesn't, and then you start counting pennies, right? Because you think, okay, so how much runway do I have? How I have a team now, so it's not only me. It was me, but now what happens? What happens if we don't close this month? What happens if this client bails on us? And this is why funding is so important to startup. It's because if you're really stressed about paying the bills every month, you cannot plan properly, you cannot think properly, right? And it happens to so many micro entrepreneurs in agriculture, etc. At some point, they're so stressed with money that they forget to plant, or not they forget, but they don't buy fertilizers because they think, I really cannot. This is really not opportune to me. I should rather save, because I don't know what the next month are about. And I really feel that this is why we're raising. We're raising to hire senior people, but also to rest and to sleep at night, because we've put already so much into that we cannot put more, and we need to evacuate a bit of stress and so no, I can't point out any very dark moment, because it has been overall a fantastic journey, but it has had its very, very big moments of doubt where you think, do I have the strength to move on? Maybe one example, actually, but I always refer to the private to the private sphere. When you have a family issue, and I'm an expat here, even if my life is here, my family is here. I still have my family outside of Mozambique, as far as my parents and siblings are concerned. And a startup is absorbing your life, right? So you don't have weekends. Sometimes in logistics you don't have nights either. Sometimes they call you at night, and so it's very difficult to just plan holiday, or to just say, okay, please, I need to go and see my parents. It's non-negotiable. And then you go, and then I was managing trucks, etc. And this is not possible. I need to dedicate my attention to things that are as important, or even 10 times more important than the truck. So that to me was when priorities started to conflict, and I was I need help, otherwise it's really too much. So it's more about that. It's more this feeling of being overwhelmed. There is too much, and you need to think and to breathe so that you clearly get your priorities right. I think this is very important, not to be dragged to the startup is your life, but it's not all your life. And at some point you also need to say, okay, no, I'm pausing, even if I don't grow, even if I tomorrow things can happen, but I need to get my priorities right. So I think it's more about that. When I lost focus and when I lost my priorities, I would say that.
Thank you for being very honest about that. And as much as you would couch it as a personal thing, I often say that there is very little distinction between the personal and the startup, because the two things are basically, it's not like you leave yourself at home and then you detach, and then there's a business you which walks out and then runs the business. It's all one person, and not being able to see your family, and that's what happens. I mean, it's crazy how I have missed out so many moments with people that I care about because of my business. And sometimes I look
doesn't
back
sound
and
right.
Yeah, it's like, wait, did I really miss that moment because I've been doing all of this, I mean, I get to the stage where, look, I schedule calls. Like, I schedule calls with family members. It's on the calendar so that I actually get to do it, because it gets to be so hectic. And, you're right. Another thing is, when you're on pins and needles waiting for investment, and you're like, okay, this person said they're going to give me money, and okay, if I get the money, I can breathe a little bit. And then when it doesn't come, it's just like, oh my God, like, okay, now let's look at the bank accounts. Let's see how far we can go, like you said. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm going to come to Joaquim now. Joaquim, darkest moments as an entrepreneur.
Let me see. When I was starting, when you start your business, sometimes you don't believe 100% on your idea, and you want to people that is around you support you. But in my case was not this. I didn't had support from people that are close to me. So this was one of the tough times in my career because it's difficult to start alone. Yeah.
No, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's really tough because I guess because when you're starting a business, you're taking a risk. You're basically doing something very dangerous and risky. People don't always know that it is, but it really is dangerous and risky. It's not just dangerous and risky from a financial perspective. It's also just from a mental health perspective. Because look, as a human being, we don't just fail and then after we fail, it's just like, oh well, I failed, whatever, every failure, every challenge leaves a mark on us. It leaves a scar on us. And having to go at something like this alone, where basically, when you're starting a business, I always say, I'm so sensitive about my business. And very few people actually know within my circles what my business is or what even I'm doing. And that's because, it's like my little baby. And I'm always like, if I show people my little baby and then they reject it, especially people in my community, it's just going to hurt so much. It'll be so painful, because I'm pouring my heart, my life, my passion into this. And not having people to support me would be really tough. So I can identify with what you're saying. I spoke to an entrepreneur from the Comoros. His name is Mo, and he was talking about how, when he started his business, he had to hide the fact that he had started a business because he had to leave his job. He was the main financial provider in his home for his mom and his family. And he didn't want anyone to know that he had done this crazy thing of just quitting his job and starting a business. So it is incredibly difficult. And thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people take for granted that, if you just decide to say, wow, I'm starting something new, everyone's going to support you. That's not how it happens. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, so Nico, if I just can add something on that, there are a lot of incubators, actually accelerators of business for startups that actually impose that we are not, they don't accept one founder company because of that. They really know that the journey will be long. And myself, I wouldn't have, jumped onto this journey if I hadn't met Catherine and then Fred, because it is too long and no one can relate to that, to the struggle and to the journey except your co-founders. They are here for, also to share these things. So I think this is really important in that regard, to have other people, sorry, friends here, to really have a co-founder that can relate to what you say and what you're going through. And then the family, this is another story. No one, they're all, they're all scared about the next move and think, what the hell? So you want to manage the moment when you actually bring this fact, not this idea, but this fact. Well, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm not thinking about being it. It's too late. I'm already an entrepreneur. How about that?
Yeah, we're talking about this with my parents. This is what happened. Because they didn't have an issue with me becoming an entrepreneur, actually, because my parents have always said, you will never work for anyone. You can't do it. So for me, there was kind of that thing where they're like, go start a business. Yeah, we're supporting you. Do it. Now the challenge with me is that when things aren't going well, I can't even go to them and be like, oh, mom, dad, this has happened, because they're not even going to give me any sympathy. They're just going to be like, yeah, go fight. Go, what you coming to me for? Go and fight. Go and do your business. Go, so it's almost like, oh my gosh, like the pressure, because they're like, this is what we wanted you to do. This is what you said you wanted to do. So don't come and cry here. Go and do what you said you were going to do. So very interesting. But I get exactly what you mean in terms of finding co-founders and having them. I think the challenge is in finding the right co-founders that you can trust, that have the same level of passion for your business that you have. I know so many entrepreneurs that have tried to, partner with somebody. They've said, hey, look, I have this idea. And then, the way it goes is, you're sitting, you're talking with somebody, and they're like, we love it, I love it, let's do it, let's do it. And then, if you're the person who has the majority of the passion, then, it almost seems as if they allow you to then be the one that does all the work. And then, you start having these conversations about, no, but we're not carrying the load equally, or, this is not fair. And I think that's also another issue that we really have as well on the continent is, finding quality co-founders is incredibly difficult. It's something that we want, but it's also very, very challenging. But before we completely take over, Velsoma, darkest moments as an entrepreneur.
My darkest moment was when I started to receive clients, Mozambican clients, and I had this first contact with international clients. So we had this way of working where I was rewarded by the time I spent internationally. People reward you for the time you spent, not exactly results, but what you did. So I came across the first, I would say, the first client that started paying me almost close to what I deserved, because I knew the struggles of my country. So when it came to national clients, I would charge like very, very, very little, just to get the experience, to work, because when we start, we are desperate just to work. We just want to get something. We want to get the experience, because tomorrow we want to tell people that we done this and that and that and that. So when I started increasing the fee nationally, it came a client, and it was, I would say, a disaster that made me cry a lot, because I felt so underrated, and it was a mix of things. I was like, is it because I'm a woman? Is it because that this person is feeling like somehow he's above me or something? Because I did the work, and unfortunately, in marketing, the client has to be as participative as the agency. So it's not just me doing it. If you don't see it and approve it and walk just right beside me. So I was doing what I had to do, and the person receiving the material was like not giving the feedback, not answering, not doing anything. I don't know what was expected me to do. And with that contract, I didn't have the authority to publish those designs on behalf of them. So I was like totally dependent on their movement. So the end of the month came, and for me, Velsoma, a virtual assistant that had worked with international clients, I charge by the hours I've worked. So when the end of the month come, I will send you an invoice, because I've worked. I spend my time doing things for you. So it's just like you call someone to clean the pool, and then you don't swim, and you're like, I won't pay you because I didn't swim. That's your problem. You called me to clean the pool, and I've done it. So that person was like, I'll pay you when I see this post on my page. And I was like, that is totally on you, because I did my work. I sent you this. And I remember calling my husband and just being so overwhelmed with that. I was like, I want to give up. I won't take any Mozambican client. I don't want to deal with this. I was just like, I was just turning on my race. Like, I don't want any Mozambican client. This is a problem with Mozambique. This is a problem of Mozambique mindset. And he was like, no, it's not a problem with Mozambican mindset. So he called me, he calmed me down, and I was like, okay, this is the first issue I'm finding. So I'll have to learn from it to be able to just not receive any client, but to analyze whom I'm receiving, and what this person is looking for in me, and how I can help and how we can have a healthy relationship. That's when I came up with the idea of, before onboarding a client, to send them a form and be like, okay, how much of a budget you have to pay for these services? How you think this works? Are you really ready to start this relationship? Because it's very collaborative. You can't just throw things at me and just sit down there, because you won't see results. If you're not working together, you won't see results. And I'm not a product provider, I'm a service provider. Product is something that you will see in your hands, but service, you need to be you need to have your eyes open to see the impact of what I'm doing. So I didn't give up on my on my people. I'm still taking weekends, but not anyone, not everyone that just comes in. I need to, yeah, I need to go through, because I didn't like what I felt in that day. It was like very overwhelming. I was sad. I felt terrible with that situation. Not because of the money, but it's because I felt that I was being underrated. I was being, yeah, I was being underestimated. I was being underappreciated. I was being under because of that. And that's when I learned that there's a difference when I'm working with my regular clients that are foreigners, and when I'm working with nationals.
I can definitely relate to what you're saying. I was, as you're talking, I was like, "Whoo, girl, preach it," because I know exactly what you're talking about. As soon as you said, because I know what people in my country are going through, I was like, "Oh gosh, she's been changing her price to fit the local market when it comes to people there." And I think this is also a challenge that I've had even within my business and supporting entrepreneurs is, like you said, when you're in your local market and then someone says, "Oh, can you help me?" Then you start saying, "Okay, what's your budget?" So I can work with you. But when you speak to, let's say, someone in the West, so someone North America, Europe, and then they ask, "Okay, so I want to work with you," you send them a flat rate, and you're like, "This is how much it is per hour." You don't even bother saying, "Oh, what's your budget? What do you?" You're just like,
Yeah.
"This is what it is." And then they pay you for that, and they pay you in advance as well. A lot of the times they're not quibbling with you about it. But when you are within, I guess, a challenging economy, you want to be considerate, you want to be understanding, you want to support. But sometimes it feels like you're being taken for granted, because you bring your A game. I always say that one of the most frustrating things for me as an entrepreneur is when I bring my A game, I'm organized, everything's done, and then someone is not participating. Something as simple as someone just responding to a query, or someone saying "Oh, we scheduled this meeting," and then you arrive for the meeting and they're like, "Oops, I forgot," and it's like, but I'm an entrepreneur, I don't have unlimited resources, even time is limited because I'm doing so many things. And you just saying I can't make it, that is an hour or 2 hours I wouldn't have spent in traffic. I could have been doing something else. So I understand exactly what you mean. Doing your best and coming to the table, and then someone just takes it for granted because it's like your time isn't important. And I love the fact that you have your husband who can calm you down. I'm not married, so ain't nobody calming me down. So I'm that person who I light the match and I literally throw the fuse. And I was having a discussion with both my mentor and my mom. I had these two separate discussions. And with my mom, she had been talking about, clients who weren't, let's say, paying on time and that kind of thing. And I was like, "Wait, you work without a deposit?" And then she's like, "Yeah, in the work that I do, I can't ask for it." I was like, "No, I tell everybody, if you want me to even just think of settling my mind down to look at your work, you're going to pay a 50% deposit. And then if you disappear or whatever, that's fine. I know that, I've gotten something out of it." And, even when I was talking to my mentor about my frustration, as an entrepreneur, that, it's like, I'm always so stressed. Like my stress is very high. And she's like, "But you realize that you're stressed because you come up with big ideas, you come up with interesting concepts, but you forget that you cannot do this by yourself, and that not every person you work with is going to respect your time, respect your effort, respect you the way you respect yourself." And then you end up getting discouraged because people are not meeting you at the same point at which you are, producing what it is that you're producing. And then, I feel like, sometimes as entrepreneurs, that's when we turn and we're like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work hard. Why should I work hard on this? Or let me just give them substandard things because they're not really caring about this. We have a comment here. I'm just going to put on screen. I agree with you guys. The journey is not easy, and questions such as motivation, mental health are very challenging for entrepreneurs. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, motivation, mental health. I hate talking about it, but I do talk about it because, it drives us crazy. But thank you guys for being open with your toughest moments. My next question is going to be around, how do you guys get motivated? I mean, you go through these challenges, people disappoint you. Claire, you don't sleep. Your business is running at night as well. So your phone has to always be on. I could never do that. I wouldn't survive it. I turn off my phone after a particular time at night and nobody's able to reach me. How do you keep yourself going with everything that's happening, apart from obviously, as the stuff you had mentioned, having a support structure? But what else do you do? I'm going to start with you, Claire, that basically gets you up and going even when things are tough.
This is very, very, I don't know how that works. I guess you really need to be passionate about what you do, because sometimes I come back home and I'm really, down because the day was difficult, and then in the morning, things, I'm still ready to, to prove to people. I guess the more also sometimes when your people turn us down, it kind of almost, triggers something in me, saying, I'm going to show you, this is going to happen, with or without you, this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. No, my sanctuary is my family. Again, when I have a tough day, I come back home and I see this toddler, terrible 2 or 3, he's moving to 3 years old now. And he's sometimes, again, I would go back to this thing of being a mom and being an entrepreneur, but sometimes people say, but how do you manage? And, isn't this an impediment for a mom? And I said, to the contrary, he's my force, he's my strength, right? I can't let down because of him. He, this is, I want to show him that we can have, we can be an actor of change. We can do positive change, because a startup is about that. You need to believe that you will bring positive change to community. Of businesses and people. This is what it is about, and also believing that things can change in a smooth way, right? In an organic way. We are coming with you to this innovation. So yeah, my family, my boy and my husband are my sanctuary and my strength and my passion. It's better to be passionate about your business. So that's my take on that.
I love that. Passion is key. That's why whenever I see entrepreneurs kind of just diving into something because they saw someone's making money in it, I'm always like, I don't know about that, because, I always say that, as far as motivations go, if your main motivator is just, well, I'm going to make lots of money, I always say that, your desire to make money will often be affected. Will often be affected by, the pain that you're feeling. So if you are experiencing a lot of pain, you might be like, no, I don't need to build my business until I can buy a Mercedes-Benz cash. What I need is a little Toyota to get me from point A to point B.
Yeah,
so
money as
a money as a motivation is just something else.
Doesn't really work.
It doesn't really work. But I do know that you might need to leave. So no, that is fine. I will release you. Thank you for being with us and sharing your insights.
No, thank you very much to you all. It was a great pleasure to meet you all and having this chat. Thank you. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Claire. So moving on to you, Velsoma. Velsoma, what gets you up and moving and excited about life and doing things and and keeping on when, your local clients are not doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing, when things are being, difficult. What is it that gets you up and moving?
Well, first are the bills that keep sliding through my doors. one day, these days, I was in the kitchen and I was having one of these moments. And then when I was going to my room, I saw the water bill, and the guy just came in, slided through my door. So that's a very good motivation. You're like, okay, I'm going to sleep, and then you see a paper there, and you have to pay that, and you have to just work. And despite having this love and hate moments with my local clients, I have a very good, like a awesome relationship with my foreigners kind clients. They are very responsive. They don't sit on invoices. They're like, the moment they receive, they're paying, and they pay with pleasure, and they give positive feedback. I remember when I had my first client, the way he would thank me for doing simple things, the way he would show me that I was really making a difference in his life. And when I asked once for his feedback to put on my website, he was like, "You helped me a whole lot." Like having receiving this, like this feedback, and knowing that you are making an impact in someone's life, that's very important. And tomorrow I'll be able to tell my descendants how awesome I was in the life of I'm not changing a country, I'm not changing a universe, I am making people lives better, like normal and regular people. They're feeling that I'm helping them. So this is something that really keeps me going on, to know that my local clients aren't the only type of clients. It's like you're just not the only people out there that I can serve, that I can be there for. And yeah,
I love it. I
basically.
love it. I love
Mm.
it. I love it so much. Amazing. I loved that. I think we often take for granted what a difference we actually make. And I'm one of those people, I suck at that. I never ever like consider how I'm actually helping people. So I love the fact that you're actually driven by that. You're like, you know what? There's at least one person out there who is like, you have changed everything. You have actually, help me to run my business and do things better. So thank you for sharing that. Joaquim, tell us, how do you get yourself up and running? Or are you just like a typical lawyer? You're woken up and invigorated by fighting. Tell us, what gets you moving?
I normally speak with my wife and my friends. I also like to listen to music, and I also look to the past to see my achievements, and also look to the future to see the people that I will be benefit, my future kids, my mother, my father, my brother. So this keep me motivated.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. And now, just to kind of almost start rounding off the session, I'm gonna ask you guys some very personal questions. It's an easy question. The question it's always easy, guys. It's always easy. Just be honest. Okay, what was the one instance when you had to deal with something in your business and you almost lost your mind? Like you were like, I'm gonna go crazy. Like now I'm mad. Now I'm just like everyone who was looking at you was kind of like, oh no, something bad is about to happen here. I'm gonna start with you, Joaquim, on this one.
Let me see. Uh, a few days ago, I was renegotiating an agreement with one client, and the price that he was suggesting was very low. So that was very bad for me because I think he didn't recognize my work and my talent. So this made me almost lose my mind. But yeah, this was the situation.
Wow. And I hate renegotiations. And when somebody, it seems like when you first come to the table, everyone's like, we love it. We love what you're doing. Yes, do it. We agree. And then the next thing they're like, oh yeah, so actually we want to do something. That always drives me. Now that drives me mad. So I understand where you're coming from. Thank you for sharing that. Velsoma, on to you.
Yeah. So a moment that I almost lost my mind. When we had to grow, I hired a freelance graphic designer. So we were starting with a new client, and it happened to be a holiday when we were starting. And holidays are the worst nightmares of a person that works with marketing, because everyone wants to do something, everyone wants to do pointless communication because they just need to congratulate people for that holiday. So we had a situation where we had to produce a post without any context, without any strategy. We just had to do something for that day. So my designer, he made something, we sent to the client, and the client gave us a feedback to change something. And then he just disappeared. He was offline. And I couldn't change that. And holidays are very time sensitive. So you can't be saying happy 4th of July when it's 8 p.m. It's like, it's pointless. Who are you talking to? So the time was just running by and he disappeared. I would call him, he wasn't there, sending messages. And I just was okay, let me redo this design. But I didn't have the open file of that design. So I had to start from scratch, and I didn't know where he take those. We use a term that just for forgetting now. It's not icon. It's just, yeah, I'm just forgetting those little things that we put on design. So I didn't know where he vectors, where he found that those vectors and what font he was using. So I tried to redo it, but it wasn't as good as the original. And I was also using low level design software, not what he was using. So that was very confusing because I was receiving this pressure from the client. They weren't being nice, they weren't understanding that we made a bad coordination. We shouldn't be starting to with the page without holiday. They took a lot of time approving the monthly content. So that's why we were so far behind and we had to do things on that day. So I remember telling my husband that I was going to drop the client and the graphic designer. Both of them, I don't want to deal with any of these sides. I have these moments in my life where it's like, I don't like stress, I don't like problems. And since I know that this isn't this isn't the normal. I have great clients, I have wonderful clients, so I don't have to put up with this kind of things. So I was like, honey, I'm going to drop this and drop that. So if you were counting this money on our budget, let's get it, because we're not having this anymore. And I remember that I have to give him my phone so he would read the messages and answer, because I wasn't okay with that. It was really overwhelming for me. I wasn't even able to read those interactions in that group chat, and we ended up posting it at night, and it was a disaster. So it was like, okay, I had to speak with the designer that he couldn't send a first version and just disappear, because he needs to expect changes all the time, especially on holiday. Like, you know that this thing needs to go today, and you're just disappearing and leaving me out here, yeah, with my hands tied. So that was a moment I was like, I'm going to leave everyone, just the client and the designer. I don't want to deal with anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing when people disappear and turn off their phones, that drives me crazy because it's like, okay, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And it's also taught me to have a backup of a backup of a backup of a backup. And I also tend to be exactly like what you said. You want to drop the client and drop the designer. That is literally what would be going through my mind, because I'm also like that as well. I'll just be like, bye, I don't need this. But thank you very much for sharing that. I'm so glad you have someone who can like grab your phone and be like, I'm gonna reply on your behalf, because
Yeah.
I will grab my phone and I will shoot back instantly, like just instantly, and everything will get worse. But what would you guys like to share, just as a last word, to other entrepreneurs who are watching? Something you want them to keep in mind if they do decide to become entrepreneurs, or if they already are. What would be your last word, Joaquim?
Uh, you have value. Don't take people. Don't let people take advantage of you because you are black, or you are a woman, or you are born in a poor country. You have value, and your idea or your business can benefit different people in different generations. So believe in yourself, take the first step, and just go.
No, I love it.
It's,
That's beautiful. Wow, 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 wow. Velsoma, how are you gonna top that? Wow.
Yeah, I'm here like I was needing this advice. I'm just taking it for myself. Like I was seeing myself in these words, because sometimes I just let myself be underrated, because like I'd be like, look at me. I live in Mozambique. Look at our economy. Look at the kind of country I have. I can be charging what I deserve, like, because yeah, look at me. But yeah, that's very important. My last words would be for people to take ownership of their future, to understand that they are the ones that need to do something. Sometimes we just get stuck on our troubles. We get stuck on the circumstances around us, mainly here in Africa. I saw many entrepreneurs just shutting down because of COVID. We are not receiving any support from the government, not at all, far from it. And people tend to accommodate and just be like, okay, I can do this. I need to give up because these circumstances aren't favorable for me. So we need to think in ways. When I and will be very challenging, I started to focus on the international market instead. I was like, okay, so this is my situation. I can't give up because I can't work with my peers. So what I did is like I searched for resources outside the country. I searched for groups outside the country. So I mean, they share opportunities with people all around Europe, and I am there. I'm a Mozambican, but I am there because that's where the opportunities are, and I couldn't just give up because of that. So we need to take ownership of our future and be like, I'm the one who has to do something about it. Okay, the government sucks, okay, the economy sucks, but then either I apply for presidency or I do something for myself. So either you become a president to change the circumstances, or you change what you can change now.
I love it.
So
I love it. I love it.
those are my words.
Thank you very much. That was an awesome last word. We should take ownership of our circumstances. Don't rely on a market that's not supporting you. Be out there, go there. We live in a virtual world. Well, part of it is virtual. So, we can reach other markets. So absolutely amazing. I want to thank both of you for being guests. This has been absolutely awesome. We've actually gotten over by like 20 minutes, and I think that's because the discussion was absolutely fabulous. Thank you both so much. It was such a pleasure having you here with me.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So as you heard, guys, do what you're doing, be pushed by the people that you love, the people that you care about, and take ownership of what it is that you're trying to do. You've heard it right here from the entrepreneurs from Mozambique. Absolutely fabulous. And tomorrow we're going to be speaking to two entrepreneurs from Namibia. So you will catch the conversation right here, wherever you're watching this now, 1 p.m. Central African time tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to having you guys there. As you can see, there's value in hearing what other entrepreneurs all over the continent are actually doing. So I look forward to seeing everybody back here tomorrow at 1 p.m.